Hey guys, this is Travis and Kyle Balitz with Beyond Bipolar blog. So this is a
personal story.
This is a personal story, and regarding yesterday or the previous episode, I apologize if you're unable to hear us. I had to really scream. Unfortunately, I really like going to these events sometimes, but the problem is that they usually have really loud music, and the crowd, though I have been able to kind of deal with anxiety with the new medication, it makes it really difficult. But anyways, let's get to the story. So my Aunt Patty is suspected to have bipolar disorder, but unfortunately she has been not doing too well because, you know, I want to say she has psychosis, but the reality is the feds are after her because she won't co-sign for her house, even though Bear did, and I think it's kind of threatening kind of her stability. And actually she lives up in, like, I want to say St. Cloud area, I believe, or maybe a little bit down below, or Brainerd. So unfortunately, she pretty much jumped out of the truck and was gone for like 3 days, and she was kind of in a forest. I don't know how you can survive without water that long, but anyways, I think I'll send it to Kyle because he probably has a lot more to say about it.
Yeah, so basically 2 days ago, today's the 20th, so maybe the 18th, she ended up hopping out of the car. My dad wanted to talk to us about it. She basically hopped out of the car. I'm not sure if her and my uncle had a scuffle or not, but anyway, she basically ran away, and then they had to file a police report because she couldn't be found for at least a day or a couple of days until some night citizens found them yesterday, when I actually was going to make a blurb about it around the afternoon yesterday. But anyway, we'll discuss a little history. The irony is, even though my brother has been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and I've been diagnosed with depression and anxiety, the reality is, knowing the fact that we're Korean adoptees, we have been adopted, so we're not related to our adoptive dad. But some stories about our dad is basically his mom, which is our grandma, which we're not related to, did have bipolar disorder, and it was a pretty stressful time for the whole Balitz family because obviously with bipolar disorder she couldn't even manage the responsibilities, and because of that my grandpa apparently was abusive to my dad. He would like hide in the closet because of it, and because of it he couldn't really learn and study for his schooling, so that's why he's become not a good speller. But anyway, it doesn't really matter if you can't spell, because in the end he was able to be financially successful because basically he works hard anyway, so it doesn't really mean anything, to be honest. But anyway, bipolar disorder did run in the Balitz family. My grandma did have to get shock therapy, which is different from Travis's TMS. It did affect her towards the end because she did have memory and cognitive issues at the end, but it was a pretty stressful time because my dad actually had to go home all the time because she was really depressed and suicidal, so that she had to go to the hospital multiple times. And because of that, I bring up this history. We kind of got that neurosis from, probably got his neurosis from our grandpa or my dad's dad, and we probably got our neurosis from our dad. But obviously Patty, who is the sister, it's kind of like black and white. They're pretty different. Patty is kind of like us in a way. She's pretty eccentric, really can't do the normal 8 to 5, kind of like us.
But the irony,
she has a bachelor's degree.
But the irony is that, like, back in the past, according to my mom and dad,
she
was actually a pretty popular girl growing up in high school, and she went to the U of M, surprisingly, got a degree in music, but she's never used it. And I just want to say that mental illness can affect anyone at any time, at any period.
She's 70 years old right now.
And right now, I believe she is 70 years old, ironically, and she's still working. And I don't want to get into specifics, but there are financial problems that were resolved or not resolved, primarily because she recently bought a house, and that led to a whole bunch of stress because she felt that it was a little bit impulsive and doesn't want to sign, and the fine.
So the fact is, I don't know what Travis thinks, but bipolar disorder, mental health illness, sometimes they can be pretty, not narcissistic, but it can kind of manipulate people unintentionally. And basically, mental illness can cause toxic behaviors. I feel like some of the videos that we posted back then, I would say Travis was pretty toxic. And I was toxic because I couldn't handle it. And that was kind of my fear. I didn't want to have kids because of it, because I don't handle stress very well and negativity. I wouldn't want to take that energy on my kids, especially if I had mental health issues runs in the family. And my option was to not have kids at all, so I don't end up affecting them negatively in that way. But mental health issues and illnesses can lead to toxic behaviors. Sometimes you got to have boundaries, and my dad pretty much was practicing boundaries and was only texting her because he wanted to go to the psychiatrist, but she kind of refused.
And I said this in several videos, is that mental health is very detrimental to some people, and can not only affect the person that has it, but also the family and friends that are around it. I mean, my dad especially was tired of her complaining to him when she kind of refused. She's at the early, I think there's different stages. Number one, early stage is denial. Number two is, I believe it
Anger,
is
depression.
Maybe a sense of trying to heal yourself from these issues, so maybe coping. And then number three is resolve. But that almost never gets to the point where you feel like every day is going to be resolved. And that is the issue that I believe, is that she's in the early stages, so she's somewhat in denial and always has been. And it's very difficult to kind of challenge someone to get help when they feel that it is not necessary. Even I was at that stage recently where I was definitely doing not well in the last like 8 months. And the irony is that I almost got so fed up that I decided, the hell, I'm gonna try this TMS, and I stayed before it actually benefited me and getting on a new medication. And though I don't want to preach the ideology of medication, I do feel that having some chemical stability can definitely change and alter the period and be slightly difficult, but will end up more graceful in the end if things do work out. And I do hope the best for her. And ideally, I did try to reach out to her, but I don't know if Dad blocked the number, because I can't really say anything to her, so I don't know.
So basically, there may be a little bit of issues talking about my aunt's story, but again, Beyond Bipolar Vlog wants to enlighten people and spread the word about mental health awareness. Where it comes to our dad and our family, they prefer to keep it in the down wraps because there could be HIPAA laws. I'm pretty sure if he saw this video, he'd get upset, but we want to mainly just show our support, not to be something that's negative. My dad got pretty upset when I talked about it to one of my friends about my aunt's condition.
My biggest gripe with Dad is that he's always in denial. He always keeps it under wrap. But in reality, that's only going to cause a lot of gossip. And the fact that people want to deny the fact that she has a mental health issue, even though Dad says it, there are people that have concerns. And though he takes it as an offense, he thinks that they're trying to get into his privacy, when in reality, like, if you were concerned about someone, wouldn't you want to know instead of brushing it aside? If someone was suicidal, wouldn't you want to know that, is there anything that I could do to help him, versus hiding it from everyone, versus believing that HIPAA law is the only reason to save yourself from embarrassment, from your true identity. But the fact that his sister is part of his identity, she is part of the family, and though I have actually done myself trying to ignore and set boundaries with her, and primarily because the issue is that she kind of griped me into getting this job, which is all right in the end, but it's kind of screwed my brother because he ended up losing all his disability.
Yeah, when he worked at the
trial work
bar.
periods, unfortunately. And you know, this is kind of off topic, but I'm mentioning that my brother's girlfriend had like a B reaction, and she literally had to pay $2,800 for insurance. Yeah. And the irony is that, you know, these people, though they are considered above poverty line and don't have mental illness, they struggle equally, primarily because I feel like due to low income, they still have to pay a huge fortune. And I believe that Colin and I, who are on disability, who struggle with holding a job, who struggle with motivation, find it a little bit more at peace being on this. But at some times you do believe with guilt that you should try to be normal. But I'm just saying, generally speaking, people's struggle at all periods of financial issues. The best problem, I believe, is trying to spend less than your means, but there are people who are rich and spend beyond their means still. So it just doesn't affect people that are in our situation. But the fact that I'm worth mentioning is that Social Security for us has actually provided a wealth of a sense of security
with
because
our insurance. So the main issue about America is that there's no universal health care. The problem with that, with universal health care, there's also two sides. That it means the medical services aren't as good, and obviously not the clients, but the providers lose money because of it, especially with universal health care. But on the flip side, like people like me and my brother, is if we work a certain amount of hours, we'll lose our insurance, and then we're forced to hold a 40-hour job, and there's no guarantee we can actually hold a 40-hour job. And like my brother said, the middle class basically become the poor class. And basically, if you meet like a $30,000 cap level, you're forced to pay higher premiums. I don't remember the premium.
Is it 30, Nancy, or no? It is. Okay, she even verified it.
30,000 or what?
No, she said it's 30. 30, 35.
35 what?
1,000.
35,000, which is pretty damn expensive for the middle class. And that's been my fear of getting off disability. Even though there's a part of me that feels guilty that I should, I know that it's keeping the security income, because even though I'm not as mentally unstable as my brother at times, I had the past, so there's always a fear, anxiety, and I lose that security crutch.
I won't lie, when I was on previous insurance with Medica and medical assistance, I was paying $319 in insurance. The good thing is that everything was covered. I guarantee it that if I was in an ambulance, it'd be 100% covered. It's 100% covered if I ended up in the hospital. It's 100% covered for dental insurance. It's 100% covered for various things, like even doctor visits, I'm pretty certain. So the emergency visits is very, very important, especially someone struggling with mental health, since you probably like me who has tried several medications. I stated before, medications are 100% covered usually. And when you're at this high level of risk, it makes things a lot easier, because I'm certain if my drugs, if I didn't have like a good RX, which my meds are like 12 to 1,500, I'd still have to pay 30%. So that's still roughly 300, 400 bucks. So that's really not that cheap. And I'm sure for certain my doc would be able to give me some type of, he'd use demos or whatever and give me just some of those. But ideally speaking, the low class is really the poor people, because in fact we are covered to the point where things are better. And I'm sure people really, really disagree with it. They should get a job, this and that. But the ideology right now is that I'm only paying $150 for being on UCare, which is with the state. Usually has really good coverage, but it's not national. It's usually just a local state thing. And I have to admit this, that I usually have to pay 20 bucks every time that I am involved with a psychiatrist, appointments, or TMS, shock therapy, you could say, and I'm sure with various others. TMS itself is probably going to be 720 bucks total for 36 sessions. So, as I said before, being on the right med is important. Trying holistic methods, especially TMS, has been important. Therapy, having a good network of friends and family is important. And I'm sure Patty struggles with all of these. And with denial in the first early stages, denial, guilt, is very lead to the problem of feeling embarrassment. And I think she has to somehow get over that gripe, be a little bit more open and honest with how she feels with her family. Even I have a tendency to ignore her, just because, I feel like she gets too much in my life, and I don't want to have that guilt driving down me to get into the lifestyle that she has. She did work at a bar, but I don't essentially believe that I needed to do drugs to stay there. And the fast pace is just really, really difficult. I mean, I can handle somewhat pace, but overall, making too much is just, I don't want to make too much, lose it just to work at a restaurant cutting vegetables and shit. So, and I'm sure Kyle felt the same way with that girl. You can explain.
So basically, I worked in a food truck. That's probably one of my, not that great a job. It's hot in there. I'm not even really a cook. The fact is, there are some bosses that I had that like yell, and I don't tolerate that well, whether I'm not bipolar or not. And I have a really short temper. But when it comes to that, I just find it ain't worth it, and I'm just gonna just step out like I did before. But anyway, let's bring it back to Patty. Although my dad is afraid about this information getting out, it's more the fact that I actually feel a lot of compassion for her. I actually felt pretty bad. I actually feel hurt and sad that she's going through this, and I felt so bad that we wanted to reach out to her, but her number's blocked. That she does deserve our support. There were times where Travis even suggested that when he was in the hospital, they went to visit him. So I feel like Travis says, she is part of the family, and I feel like it makes me really sad because there's a lot of patterns and mirror reflections of my aunt's behavior with my brothers. I mean, my brother ran away. Like my dad even said when he told us the news, he wanted to know what was he thinking when he ran away, and Dad wanted to take the keys about that. I don't know if you have any.
Well, the dad has concerns, but sometimes it's in a negative way or approach. I feel personally by asking me what would I do if I was missing, I'd probably tell her I'd probably be in the forest, or most importantly is for me, I'd probably be at home sulking most of my life and not doing much, being anxious, unable to go anywhere. That's my form of an emergency. And for her, it's probably just ditching everything and running away. But you can't always run away from your problems. I'm very certain she had some type of psychosis and paranoia, in spite of the reality of believing she was being attacked by the feds, but the reality is she was. And I think in addition to that, if it wasn't paranoia, it was stress that was causing her to go over the deep end. And stress doesn't always have to be psychosis. Stress doesn't always have to be mentally there. It could be also physically there. And the thing I learned is, why didn't I help her before? Why wasn't I more supportive then? For me, it's just like when you want to be busy with your own life, you don't want to deal with more, but sometimes death, sometimes mental, physical, or health ailments kind of brings other people and draws them closer together, which is probably where we're at right now.
So even on the news that this actually reached on Facebook from the Niwa police, they actually posted it. Patty, my aunt looks pretty terrible from the picture they done. Obviously she's under a lot of stress, and I feel a lot of hurt and compassion. I actually feel pretty sad, maybe a little bit of anger too, because it gave me some memories of the stuff I had to deal with when Travis was sick. But in the end, I only want to show my love and support. You're part of the family. I'm sorry that you had to run away, and it's just makes me super sad because you're part of the family, and it hurts that that someone that you love is hurting, and there's a lot of nihilism in a way, unfortunately. Like dealing with a drug addict kid or loved one, you sometimes feel like there's nothing I can really do. They're just going to go back to the same old behaviors.
Bro, girls.
You can't really force someone to want to live and survive. Like
my biggest gripe with people with
know.
mental health is, though you want to kind of be supportive, they have a tendency to really gaslight you in the beginning and blame you and blame them. I mean, blame other people than themselves and don't take care of themselves. So I think that everyone is individual. Medications are individual, but at the same time, everyone wants to try to have a decent life, whether it's hopeful, satisfaction, the job, the people they love, etc. So we'll try to keep this short and sweet. I don't know if Kyle has anything else.
So we were looking at the posts of the Niwa police, and obviously a lot of them were actually pretty supportive. So I want to give a big shout out and thank you for everyone that shows support to my aunt. And I know she's pretty well known in some parts of the areas of the local community in Minnesota and
Wisconsin, Harbor.
But I really appreciate it that you guys aren't judging her and you're giving her support. And that's what people need, not judgment. They just need love and compassion and understanding. And I really appreciate that. And I'm really sorry to my aunt about what's going on. I'm sorry that you can't get us more support. And I do send my prayers and thoughts, but the news really has been affecting me. I've started feeling pretty bad about it, thinking about it. Thank God that they found
I'm sure there's
her,
a lot of people wondering, why the hell don't you just call the Niwa police, or why don't you just reach out to her? Like I said, her number's blocked, and she lives 3 hours away, so it's not like we can just
dad probably
leave
wants us
everything,
to stay
go
away
up there.
too,
And
so.
like, I'm pretty sure our dad does not want us to communicate
Involved.
with her, because he thinks she will involve us in really bad and negatively influence us. So it's totally understandable, but at the same time,
So
I feel like this is kind of a though it's kind of a horrible way to think about it, it's kind of a passive-aggressive way to tell her hopefully things are all right.
So
I mean, maybe down the line we'll try to be more personal with her when she's a little bit better.
Off camera. So if you were Patty right now, and obviously she's in the hospital right now, she's hospitalized now, what is your advice?
You know, the
for
whole
looking
thing
forward?
rolling up to the stress, the paranoia, the psychosis, the lack of compassion for yourself or others, the problem of blaming others, the feeling hopeless, depressed, maybe suicidal. This is really, really difficult. But once you are in a point where you feel like you are forced to be in a safe position, whether it's a hospital or whatnot, I feel that this is probably the best thing for you, because at least you can recollect. There's no social media, there's no phones. You're just with you and your doctor and other people with mental health issues. You may or may not share a room, but hopefully you can reflect on things with the journal they may provide. Maybe just, people think they're really stupid, and some people don't join. Some people think that getting up early, having breakfast, lunch, dinner is just pointless. Some people think that the group activities are pointless, but heck, you are pretty much bored to the point where you really, really have to reflect. And she's actually on a week hold, and usually it's just a 3-day hold. But for me, I was there as long as 2.5 weeks, I believe. I don't know if it's 3. I doubt it was 3, but maybe 2.5 weeks. It's unfortunate, but I do hope that she does feel a little bit better down the line. My tack on this is Prescott Beach. I don't know if I introduced it, but there's a lot of boats around. And for me, I actually personally like these more scenic routes, because though I'm okay with these very community gathering, like yesterday, community gathering, like get-togethers, it is stressful to try to talk to a camera when it's so loud and rambunctious and there's people everywhere. I always wanted to do this Balitz broadcast system, but I feel like the shots are just going to be pointless because we somehow have to narrate over it in order to be able for people to understand. But here you can just pretty much enjoy the scenery. This is a connection from St. Croix River that actually just down there connects to the Mississippi, and that goes all the way from Minnesota down to I think it's New Orleans, and then reaches out into I believe is it the Pacific to the right? Or, because I always say Atlantic is after, but I'm pretty sure the Pacific is to the right. And if not, sorry, I'm stupid. But anyways, anything else you want to add? Or?
Yeah, so for people that are in the same position where they just can't live or survive, do you have advice for that? What do you think about life is meaningless, you want to die?
You know, what really freaking sucks is that, why do you make stupid advice? You ain't getting paid. It's just a poor way to grovel and complain and bitch and moan. But anyways, I understand. It can get boring and frustrating for people that are normal.
Life's hard.
Like Nancie, she's trying to start a fire and light a fire with rocks, but it's not working. So,
she wants to burn Bailey and Bennett,
but
just like we're burning bees right now.
But she wants to be a cave woman, and it's not working. That's it. I don't know, back to Kyle's question, I feel that for the person in question,
this is kind of what my advice is. Basically, we've been playing with the hornet nest. Sometimes all you can do is
literally
just leave it alone. The hornet nest is your mental health illness. Try not to put energy into it. Just take it day by day. Sometimes you do have to burn it to the ground like we did, and you're obviously going to get burned, but sooner enough, things will go away. The hornets did go away. The wasps did go away. He's not getting as stung.
Can we introduce the dogs? I don't know if we ever introduced.
We want to introduce a few of these animals.
All right, guys. This is
we have to go back. Right. Hey, could you look at the camera quick?
How is it? All right, guys. This is Bailey
and Bennett.
This is he's 2 years old, and that's Bailey. She's 1, and this is my brother's girlfriend's dogs. They're pretty cute. They're Shih Tzu, Maltese, Poodle, and I think there's one more, but I don't remember. Bichon. So they're really cute. This one feels.
This is mental health day for us. We're just going to the beach, taking a nice walk, enjoying.
I actually influenced the whole thing because we literally just gonna do nothing the rest of the day until later. But I wanted to get out since I kind of like the idea of being in nature. So it's just nice. I never introduced these dogs, but they're pretty cute, though they can be annoying at times, but that's life. Having responsibilities can kind of take away all the depression.
Talk about that.
Yeah, I'd like to have a pom, but they're like $2,300, and I've actually found a whole bunch in Wisconsin. We're in Minnesota and a few in Chicago, but I don't want to drive 3.5 hours to maybe or maybe not get a dog, so not worth it. And there's not too many Minnesota ones, and if there are, they kind of look like a throwback, kind of like the puffy cloud ones. But anyways, anything else?
I think that's it. Anyway, we wish you the best, Patty. We love you. Hang in there. We do give you our thoughts, and I do feel very sad about it, to be honest. So, love and care. Okay, bye.
All right, please like, comment, and subscribe, and hit the bell button.
In the end, takes love. Bye.
Anyways, this is just a shameless plug, but I produce music. I have over 270 tracks, including songs, instrumentals, and beats. These are 2 physical albums. One is a piano album right here, and the other one is an orchestral album. The piano album has 17 tracks. The orchestral album has 19 tracks. They're on sale for $5 a piece or $8 for both of them. These are really original. I know not a lot of people have CDs, but it'd be great for any donations if you want to buy them. What makes it personal is that the original art is by Colin and me, and one is a graphic art, and the other one is acrylic artwork that Colin and I done together. Anyways, that ties something else, which I also do art, so I do hyperrealistic artwork. As you can see here, just some examples, and I do airbrush portraits, and as stated before, I do abstract acrylic work that I often do sometimes with my book. But anyways, please go to lift.bio/monopark. Once again, it's lift.bio/monopark, MANHOPRK. So please like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell button. Take care, have a good one, bye. 안녕하세요, hello, this is Travis and Kyle. We are both artists, and we focus on hyper-realistic drawings, acrylic work, airbrush work. So I also wanted to mention that we actually have our own channel as well. Our channel is Korean Adoptee Stories, and we interview a lot of adoptees. We found that with adoption, there's quite a few adoptees that struggled, unfortunately, and did not have the best kind of life, and a lot of them had mental health issues. We felt like it was important because we kind of struggle with that.